Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I know it's been a hot minute since I've made any video at all, and I'm trying to get my toes back into the YouTube waters with a fairly extensive series on a police interrogation of a man named Todd Kendhammer. And I would like to give a shout out to me for pronouncing his name right, because this is like the 80 millionth time I've tried to do this, and I always just, my tongue gets tied up in knots. It's like, English is hard. Todd Kendhammer is a man from Wisconsin who unfortunately one morning beat his wife to death, and then he tried to cover it up by staging a car accident. And he said that they were driving down the road, he was driving her to work, a pipe fell off a truck, it came through the windshield, it killed her. Almost immediately, of course, the police figured out that it didn't happen the way that he said it happened for about 80 billion different reasons. He was convicted a couple months ago. I think it was actually in December 2017. He was convicted and he was sentenced to life in prison with chance of parole in 30 years. I was very nervous about this case when it first happened, because if you listen to this interrogation and you don't really know anything about statement analysis, you might be tempted to think that this is just this poor guy who is grief-stricken, he's lost his wife, he doesn't remember a lot. He's vague because he's trying to throw out theories that maybe the police could use to help find this mystery truck, and oh my gosh, they're going to try to railroad him and send him to prison because that's what cops do or something. I was nervous about that, but by the end of this interrogation, I absolutely promise you, you're not going to have doubts. And of course, the lack of doubt there is bolstered by the medical examiner's testimony. The medical examiner during trial got up on the stand. She was like, listen, these are the injuries. It's physically impossible for these injuries to have been caused in this accident. It was pretty much a slam dunk. What is so frustrating for me about this case is the fact that even after he was convicted, Todd Kendhammer still is sticking to the story. And tragically, he is victimizing his entire family, because almost his entire family supports him. They believe he was wrongly convicted. And so he's the one that's in prison, but they also have a life sentence too, because they believe that he's been unjustly imprisoned, which is horrible. I can't imagine that. You're losing one member of your family to a violent death, and then you believe that the other member of that couple has now been locked up for no reason. That is pretty much the definition of hell on earth to me. So I feel like they are also victims in this. The other thing I want to say is that I honestly believe that this was, basically he snapped. They had some kind of an argument. He snapped, he attacked her, and then he realized, oh my goodness, she's comatose or unresponsive. I have to try to cover this up, right? And so when the ambulance arrived at the scene of the accident, she was still alive, but she was almost dead, and she died later at the hospital. But the point is that I don't believe that we're watching an interrogation of a man who is some evil kind of cold calculating serial killer. That's not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a guy who had control issues. They had been married for, I think, 26 years, and it was the kind of marriage where everybody thought it was the perfect marriage. But if you've ever been married, you know that there are no perfect marriages, but all of their problems were kind of kept between them and probably kind of repressed. And so one morning, for whatever reason, he exploded, he killed her, and then he was trying to sweep it under the rug. I can't blame him for not wanting to go to prison, but really the whole thing is just very sad. So why am I spending time on YouTube talking about this case? Because it is a statement analysis gold mine. If you know nothing about statement analysis, you're gonna by the time we're done with this, because he checks all of the boxes. It's unbelievable. It is almost like you could write the manual on statement analysis based on this interrogation. It is incredible how he is constantly leaking deception and leaking his knowledge of his own guilt. It's amazing. So we're going to jump right into it, and this is the start of the interrogation. They've just shown him in the room, and there's going to be some small talk, and I do want to warn you that the quality of the interrogation video is not the best, because it was shown at the trial. So this was video captured from the projection screen at the trial, and it is subtitled. A couple of the words in the subtitles are wrong, but again, I can't change that. They're not my subtitles, so don't come for me. They were done by the court, so we're kind of stuck with that. So anyway, buckle up, grab your favorite beverage, and let's begin the interrogation.
Yeah, I just want to say sorry for your loss and terrible tragedy. Can't imagine what you're going through. My sympathies to you and your family.
Before we get started, you want any coffee or water or anything like that?
Maybe a little bit of water.
I'll grab you some water. right?
Are you okay if I take a couple? I didn't take the medicine this morning.
Yeah, that's fine. No
I
problem.
wasn't going to try to take any today, but
What are you taking?
just some appraisal.
Now, alprazolam is a sedative. He takes a sedative at the beginning of this interview, and I want you to watch his right leg during this interrogation. Even after he takes his sedative, that right leg goes a mile a minute. It's constantly going bum, 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 up and down. You can see his knee. He looks like he's going to drill a hole to China through the floor. It's pretty wild. So keep that in the back of your mind, that when you are seeing him get all nervous and frantic and panicky, that is Todd Kendhammer sedated.
It just helps a little bit when
Sure. All right. Are they working this week, or are they? They're at your house.
at my house.
Okay.
Normally my son is with me all the time, but we worked on this project pretty late last night, and so I let him sleep in this morning, and I told him, I let him know that I was going down to work on the project.
Do you have a lot of families coming in from out of town, or are they all mostly?
We have a lot of friends coming from out of town. Some family, most of our families are around here. Some of my wife's is at Patrick, or I mean, Whitehall, by Whitehall. But most of our family and friends are right around here.
Now, this is much more than just friendly small talk. Part of it is, of course, to be compassionate and to establish a rapport with Todd Kendhammer, but this detective is also looking at things like, what is his level of eye contact? What is his posture like? Is he speaking quickly or slowly? Is he stuttering and stammering? Is he speaking fluently and fluidly? Or is he having to stop and pause and think? And all of these things are very important, because once the questioning kind of starts to get a little bit more direct, once the interview turns into an interrogation, if you will, you're going to see this stuff change real quick.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're just going to close this door for our privacy, Todd, so because a lot of people walk back and forth and all that. Did you understand that? If you need to go to the bathroom or anything at any time, just let us know. If you want to leave at any time, let us know if you get a phone call or anything like that.
Well, it'll just be my son if anybody calls.
Um,
I'm just gonna take a few notes here too, so that's
Yeah.
all.
Mark talked to you the other day, and I've talked to Mark, but sometimes things get lost in translation. So what I kind of want to do today is kind of go through the progression of things, so I know. We've got video that we pulled.
Did you find anybody?
Well, that's where we want to be able to figure that out. So just so I know, because videos are all time specific, sometimes they're a little bit off with times, if you know what I mean. Their clocks might be a little bit different, but we want to try to get that zeroed in on that time frame so we can find. We've seen some vehicles that we're doing some follow-up checking on, but so I understand it more fully. If we could just kind of go through that morning again, like, you know, you left.
They have already pulled tons of surveillance footage, and they're pretty sure that there's no truck matching this description even closely that could have possibly been on that road at that time. But Kendhammer doesn't know that, because when they called him and asked him to come in, they said, listen, we want to talk to you about the truck. We have some video that we think you're going to want to see. So he thinks he's coming to look at video, and they need to get him to put the pause on that and tell the story again. So that's how they're doing it. They're making up some excuse about, oh, the timestamps. That's a BS excuse. Okay, sure, timestamps could be off a little bit, but what they really want to talk about is all of this other stuff.
You and Barb got in the car and
We left our house, I don't remember what time it was, maybe 7:30, 7:45, somewhere in there. And we headed out, went across the Osmus Road up to M, and started going up M, and I wasn't paying attention as to who was coming at me or what. We always just talk. And
take a look at his body language right now and the speed at which he is speaking. He is closed way off. He's hugging himself. He's not making eye contact. And he's got these huge pauses in his speech. He's basically falling all over himself because he is no longer talking about facts. He is now spinning a tale, and his brain needs extra processing time in order to do that. He did not anticipate the fact that the cops were not going to believe his story. He did not realize that they were going to pick it apart with a fine-tooth comb. And so all of a sudden he has to try to invent new details that mesh with the original false details, which is incredibly hard to do.
She always takes a thing of water with me go in the car. And
Where were you going?
up over to Holman,
Okay.
by Holman, and we were, I don't know what kind of, how it looked like a bird coming at us at first, like one of them swallows or something,
Sure.
and then it come through the windshield.
Did you see how he closed himself off even more by putting his face into his hands like that? I think it's because he's so ashamed of what he's done, and also he's really afraid of them finding out. So it's almost like, if I can't see them, they aren't there kind of thing. Also, he says the phrase, "it come through the windshield." This is not just poor grammar. This is a story that is in briefly, the present tense, because he is telegraphing that the pipe actually didn't come through the windshield. If you're telling somebody something that happened in the past, you are going to be speaking in the past tense, unless you have a very good reason not to, such as sometimes you'll see TV interviewers who will ask questions like in the present progressive, like, and what happens next. But the police have not done that here. So he's saying, I didn't even know what it was at first. I thought it was a bird, a plane. It was Superman. And then it come through the windshield. It would have been even better if he'd said it comes through the windshield, but he didn't. His brain would not let him say it came through the windshield, because that's a lie, because it didn't come through the windshield until later when he pushed it through. We're going to get to that though. But in the meantime, even that one little word being in the present tense is significant.
I tried to reach out for it, I guess, I don't know. And
How did you try to reach out for it?
I lunged harder with, I tried to hold on to the, I tried to hold on to the wheel, I think, with my right hand, and lunge harder with my left, but I think I let going with both hands, because when I turned on the cooler road, I was over, I don't think I was in my, I think I was more on her side of the seat than my side of the seat.
Okay, let's do a little experiment here. Let's have a little visual. So he's driving the car, right? So he's here, his wife's over there. Driving, Miss Daisy. And then he sees this bird plane Superman that's going to come through the windshield. So he keeps his right hand, which is closer to her, on the wheel. And he's saying now he lunged over with his left to try to, like, who even knows, punch it back through the windshield. I don't even know. And he says in doing so, maybe he had both hands off the wheel, but he wound up more on her side of the seat than his side of the seat. Well, guess what? These are bucket seats. This is not a bench style seat like in a pickup truck. This was an Acura. It's got regular separate seats. So you're either in your seat or you're in her seat, or you're sitting there with the gear shift above your butt. Maybe that's what happened.
And I just, I don't, from then, I mean, I think, I don't know for sure, but I think I didn't know that she was hurt bad at first. And I don't remember, I remember seeing her, realizing what was going on, Because she,
When you first realized what was going on, what was it that you were realizing?
she didn't say nothing at all.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't say nothing at all.
All right, so we're going to stop it here for tonight. And just in case you guys were really paying attention, yes, different clothes, different day. It's actually like 4 in the morning right now. Sometimes when you make videos, you got to do them in segments. So hence the wardrobe change. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this first look at Todd Kendhammer. We are going to be coming right back at you with Volume 2, hopefully in about 24 hours. Thank you for watching. Hit the thumbs up if you liked. And I will see you guys real soon. Bye for now.